Hi guys, hi guys, and welcome back to another video on the swimming on review of Daniel. This video is going to be a video just for the sake of it, and because I'm in humour of doing on this is and so rant video. Um, Basically, I wanted to do a follow-up to a video as to what I hate the most: insufferable knob, cheese and the rest, and business and sort of Russo. Um, last time we about this J.K. looking so the Hodgson wanker, and he basically bulldozed me because I called him out on his racism against Scottish people. So without any further ado, so let's get into what I detest um Vince Russo. The first reason as to why I detest Vince Russo is because um it's because he does this show called castrating the arts, where he constantly takes the piss out of schooling for and on his YouTube channel and another how platforms for like professional wrestling. Now he does, granted, he does take the piss out of Ed Kell or in Dave Elsa, but he constantly bashes everyday fan as hell. Now, to be honest, if you guys it's okay to have the different passions in life. My two biggest passions are professional so in and obviously Celtic FC, as you see behind me, although although all of them are needers, I can probably eat in a turbo a day, and Fanny will get Tara and a Newbury and dinner or just on a separate video. But yeah, back to the so he constantly talks down to he constantly he talks down to the fans, etc. He uses all fans have been homosexuals, bizarro. He basically not that not that that's a bad thing, by the way. Yeah, I have several very vocal subscribers that are um and I'm happy that they are subscribed to the channel. Um, yeah, so I'm all for that. Be who you want to be, but the show just brands everybody as that. Now, partly because the state of New York is a bit homophobic and obviously um racist. It's probably one of the most racist parts of the state if you look into it, because that's where the most insufferable metropolitan um, area as are, and there's this sense of entitlement, and also embodies that I am as an individual. Um, Again, again, another example with this was in WCW, where he first took over as kind of a vocal um, character called the powers that be. You never saw his face till about 2000 to when he returned to together with Eric Bischoff to form the new Bla- to form the new versus Alien Ears angle. But yeah, but one of his first televised acts was obviously when he wrote the show, mm, was to have the cruiser away division fight over a pinata, as it was a pinata Napoleon match. Now that's a bit stereotypical, as at the time the roster comprised oh, of quite a high population of um, Mexican luchadors, and yeah, so that is where that is also a bit of a stupid stipulation as was being a bit stereotypical because of the fact that a lot of these guys were world renowned performers, etc., very accomplished back in their home, and another reason why I hate this that kid is back to the whole is back to the whole sort of criticizing fans thing. So like as I've said in my previous point, Russo does like to talk to fans, etc. And like basically think it's pathetic that they're passionate about professional wrestling, etc. And they talk a lot about it. But how he got his art in professional wrestling was technically on a fans forum. If you think about that, it was a free hands right for the Roma magazine. See, back in the 90s, you had the WWF Roma magazine. You had obviously you had just the standard WWF magazine, and the Raw magazine is the most edgy of the two. Is the more sort of risky content, such as interviews with a bit more risky, etc. You did get the picture. But yeah, that's how Russo got his start. He was writing his own. and he was writing his own alternative storylines, and basically and but and basically as a aesthetic tells the story of how he got hired to be and called the other writers, road agents, and talent relations departments into his office, and he looks at Russo holds up the latest issue of Raw magazine at the time, and he said, "This is what we need, pal, go right more or so." Like the problem is so like every single idea that Russo came up with himself was either like stupid ideas like Beaver Evie, obviously, Headbanger um, Headbanger Moon Horse and an incestuous angle or um, Terry the notes having a miscarriage, etc. If it wasn't for the other people around about him, the attitude era would have failed because you had guys like Jim Cornette, who's also a bit of who's also a bit of an insufferable prick, though, these days. You had him, you had Jerry Briscoe, you had Pat Patterson still there, you had a few other people, and um, basically, if it wasn't for those guys, and obviously, the recently disgraced Vince McMahon, if it wasn't for those guys chipping in with ideas, then the attitude era would have fell flat in its face. He also takes some credit for the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Um, basically, I'm going to use an analogy here. If you don't know if you don't know about um German history prior to the First World War, etc., Germany wasn't a unified country. It was all states, and like some historians credit the first German unification was down Otto on Bismarck, but the majority of historians suggest it was other social factors that caused it. And back to the professional wrestling scenario. Basically, Vince Russo is the Otto von Bismarck of professional wrestling. I think he got lucky because um, he had The Rock, he had Stone Cold Steve Austin at his disposal. Guys that could cut good or music, etc. You didn't really need to like shackle them with scripts as you see now. As these guys could talk at all. etc. And to a certain extent, you could add Triple H to the conversation, and obviously Shawn Michaels a little bit, but, but um, but the Rob Thomas, he thinks it's all down to him and Ed um, Arara, who was basically um, Hudson, for lack of a better word. Ferrara was basically there to sniff his farts, basically, in massage his ego. But back to WCW for a minute. Um, he took the pass out of Jim Ross's bill. He took the pass out of Jim Ross's bill's palsy with the a Homer character. Um, as as Russo tells himself, um, he he intervened office at Titan Tower one night, and it was just before SmackDown was about. It was just after. Oh, sorry, SmackDown was about to launch, and basically, um, and basically he tells his version of the events that he was homesick, etc. He wanted to see, he wanted to see his kids more, etc. He, um, um, he done with his stay if we could have $1 million or e-rise, etc. All of this bullshit. And Vince McMahon apparently said getting Annie. Now basically, Jim Cornette, another wrestling and have either told uh, s- have either told the opposite stories of Russell was on out in creative exhausted way, or Jim Cornette actually tells Jim Cornette actually he tells a story. Jim Cornette actually tells the story of him and Ed for her opening even a UK pay-per-view was going on. I think it was Rebellion 1999, because it was around to that time where it was so pissed off anyway. Um, so yeah, um, another thing that is so completely watch, um, um, watched them during his tenure as the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, the first big major watchable is having David Arquette in the title and the tag match in WCW under on April 27th, 2000. It was Arquette and DDEP teaming up against um, the Diamond Dow is age and Eric Bischoff and whoever got the pinfall or submission would be the WCW heavyweight champion. And you can see where I'm going with this. One of the worst booking decisions was to have David Arquette in the WCW Championship, or also kill, or also kill Ames several times in prior year. Um, uh, no, and years have also already that that he himself is sold to get that kind of publicity etc. He killed Ames. It was the only time in the history of USA today that WCW was actually covered in the history of the paper. I knew that might be or you don't value a championship that's been held by the likes of Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Diamond Dallas Age, even Bret Hart, whose WCW run is terrible. Even he held the championship. Hell, etc. All for all for a cheap sort of engine in USA today. Another reason why I've answered so to that decision is because I'm already to on both Star and David Arquette. It had several WCW several WCW roster as starring in the film. You also get a cameo from John Cena in the film, and it just basically bombed an opening day week, and it cost the company millions of dollars to produce. Um, Partly the reason why WCW got involved in this project is because Warner Brothers are the distributors for the DVDs and the pay-per-views um, came out with DVDs, so that was kind of a again, etc. But yeah, the company needed something to get popularity back in the and throw shit at the wall to see what sticks as WWF at the time. At WWF at the time is having the best year creatively under Brian Gervais and his writing team. If you didn't know, he came back he fully to rewrite the Rock's creative and the Rock came back as year etc. So yeah, but yeah, and also the other scenario, uh, um, also the other scenario, Russo, um, um, Russo shot on the title is obviously, um, is obviously, and he put the L on himself. There was basically a age match between Booker T and sort of Russo for the belt, and Bill Goldberg speared them all the way through the cage side. Russo's head hit the guard reveal, but it's always the first person to escape the cage wins the match. That's the object of a traditional steel cage match. And of course, as the answer, so is the head, alright, Oren is an arrogant piece of shit. He decides to actually himself as the winner of the age match and making himself the WCW heavyweight champion, only to vacate it next, only to vacate it the next week. So again, it's all for just shock value, etc. Um, basically, the guy's just poison if he's not got any other alright also creative influences overseen overseen him. Another reason why I don't think Europe is obviously uh, um is obviously the fact as he's from Al Snow school of or say he, among this as if you haven't been part of the wrestling business, you don't have the right to have an opinion. Um, again, I think that's a load of all. It's all like if you go to a restaurant and you order, and you order, and you order a dish, and basically you're not happy, and you basically you're not happy but have to all it's or shit. Basically, hey, you're and basically you're within your rights to say you're not happy with what you've been served up, etc. And yeah, it's known as a free society. Or also himself as a big advocate for the freedom of speech, etc. But he doesn't like it when and people are are very critical of him and his bullshit ideas, etc. It's one of the reasons why I hate the guy. I so much with every fibre of my being. Is his arrogance. I just can't stand. Um, it'll, it'll, it's sort of like a hobo. Oh, and if anybody, and if anybody's, arctic I is, art, is, art, or his own, or is, art for his own, or item, he chops himself up constantly. He talks over his guests on his podcast. The Rant, he doesn't let them get him or done edgeable. He's a 60 odd, um, he's a 60 odd year old, um, shite that just says row every, every four, or, every fourth one. Or you tune into his podcast and you see all the guests is interesting. You see the Velvet Sky, you see Duke, on the here you see the It's Still Real to Me, the Hammett guy on here you see, and you see basic loads of people you can, you can see loads of people you can, and of another, so, and well, he just talks over, um, now if you were, now if you were to construct and or view your audience as expecting, to, you have the courtesy to give, to give them time to answer, to answer whatever you've asked them to, or you don't like them to talk about, etc. But this guy talks over them, etc. As I've said, as I've said, a, as I said, he actually he says often wrong with the concept of the or of or alternative and some of his ideas fail to realize the role for all and the role for all was probably one of the most stupid concepts that will add to lots of or so us injured etc. And yeah um yeah it just actually he seems like a stupid concept and awesome and you oh, like or yeah and yeah and the inner reason the main reason why that has happened is because they wanted to teach JBL JBL a lesson because they didn't like JBL ill until they realised it killed on on and Dr. Stephen Williams years simultaneously as Dr. Death Stephen Williams is actually scheduled to is actually scheduled to be the champion and go on to face Stone Cold Steve Austin in a big Roger eventually, but un- unsurprisingly knocked him out. But Steve how he was actually or his hamstring in that and gun and all the way to the final and became the Raw for All champion. This would culminate at WrestleMania 15, etc. etc. Here he'd face uh, uh, um, um, here he'd face or in an or overall an overall contest as predicted, though it never ended with and Otter being knocked out on on and ended his in America he had to go back over to Japan and carve out some sem oh of respectability. Um so yeah so yeah uh, also I could talk about the last rights match and had with the and had with them on or that was actually terrible and TN you could talk about the reverse battle or oil also in TN etc. And every other company bar WWE or Russo hasn't been successful. He's even so he's even tried to show his own website or Russo's Rant.com. Um, etc. them and doesn't have a good track record to anything. He just much use as a chocolate fire guard, and I think people actually exaggerate the brilliance of and sort of Ahsoka's prior, um, because because her hierarchies in the professional wrestling industry. He owned two fields of a deal video shop, etc. And basically every idea that made sense and every idea that made them sense and every big idea is actually overseen by the people around about him. And he basically takes or edit for them Montreal skill or her job. But if you actually pay attention to the dark side of the ring documentary, that was actually Jim Conley once because he talked about the 1930 Montreal Screwjob to is Henri Henri de Guerre is versus Strangler Lewis and that's how Jim on there actually managed to pitch the idea of a Vince McMahon to Robert Hart at Survival Series 97 and so the show has no idea about professional so and is never a fan is like the associated Davis of the professional wrestling and then the just like I that wanted to put his favourite genre of TV on the wrestling business. He had a varying degrees of success, but it only lasted for a period of time, and he's basically all on her own under her. So in conclusion, of answer so you wear a hat and a hat and yeah guys hope you enjoy I remember to like share and subscribe and I'll see you very soon.